Despite the fact that Uganda is well known for exporting the majority of its raw cocoa beans, Uganda actually imports more chocolate than it exports. Uganda imported chocolate worth $2.66 million in 2020, ranking in position 155 as the largest importer of chocolate globally. In the same year, chocolate was in position 282 as the most imported good in Uganda. Most of the chocolate items sold on Uganda's largest stores are imports from other nations, including Brazil, England, Denmark, Switzerland, Belgium, and Turkey. A 100-gram bar of chocolate typically costs roughly 20,000 Ugandan shillings or slightly more than $5. Gustav Gonget, a Danish resident living in Uganda, has started adding value to the locally produced cocoa as a strategy to reverse the revenue lost in the exports of cocoa beans.
Now, that decline from 105.81 to 81.9 million US dollars is partly a result of Ugandans are beginning to do value addition, adding value to cocoa, which I think is a very good thing for us, because the value of value-added cocoa is much higher than the raw beans.
It's ridiculous that we don't, we haven't been making chocolate here, and as you said, a net importer of chocolate. I believe the last figures I have about a couple of years ago is about 700 tons of chocolate imported, when we are perfectly capable of making chocolate here.
More than a century ago, cocoa planting was brought to Uganda, but since the government's emphasis is on promoting coffee, sugar, and tea production, cocoa farming's fortunes have always been inconsistent over time. The crop is anticipated to be grown on over 20,000 hectares of land because most of the farmers are unaware of the markets and its worth in the country.
We get most of the beans from cooperatives in Bundibujo that we work with. Some other beans we do get from Mukono via another supplier. Currently we are working with cooperatives in Bundibujo that do so-called specialty cocoa. This means that the cocoa is properly well fermented, that the cocoa is traceable down to the farmers, and we pay more for that cocoa, 40 to 50% than one would pay for bulk cocoa. This to ensure that the farmers have a decent living and also to give them the incentive. If Uganda were able to add value to all the cocoa that it produces and simply export all the chocolate, obviously that would be where the real money is. But that's not happening at the moment, and not for the foreseeable future, because Uganda last year exported 35,000 tons of cocoa beans, and even if we were to do 200 kilos a day, that would translate to just a very small percentage of the total cocoa beans produced here. So we would need a much larger manufacturing base here.
Although Ghana and Ivory Coast are the most well-known cocoa producing countries in Africa, Uganda has a minor but expanding sector with land suitable for the cash crop. The demand for locally manufactured chocolate is strong and expanding, but the director of Uganda Export Promotions Board urged Ugandans to embrace the market as well.
Much as we shall be, we have also started exporting the value-added cocoa. I think Ugandans need also to embrace consuming the value-added cocoa in this country, because a population of about 45 million people, if a portion of that consumes the cocoa that we add value to in this country, it will give this country a very big boost.
People who know the chocolate appreciate it. We still have to get the word out to more people. Our idea, and our original idea, was to do import substitution and not so much export.
In addition, he asked the government to emphasize and raise public knowledge of the value of cocoa production in the same level with other nations that produce the crop.
There are countries in West Africa that were doing coffee, and actually abandoned coffee for cocoa, and they are doing extremely well. And I think Uganda is in a better footing to even beat them. Cocoa had not been regulated But one of the initiatives that government is doing is now putting it under Uganda Coffee Development Authority to be regulated and managed in terms of planting, in terms of storage, post-service handling, the way coffee is handled. And that should be able to give us quite a big leap. Actually, one of the things I would request the government to do is, just like they have added Has avocado, macadamia, and the cashew nut on the export product list, and supported macadamia and the Has by providing seedlings at a discounted rate of 70%. In other words, the farmer pays 30% and government pays 70%. The same needs to be applied on cocoa, because its value is very, very high and very, very good, and it grows in most parts of this country. The other initiative is obviously the infrastructure. You see, when roads are worked on, when electricity is worked on,
cocoa is a high-value export commodity with significant economic potential for boosting farmers' income and foreign exchange earnings for the country. According to statistics, cocoa production and export revenue have both been consistently rising. Monica Nabyonga, SMART24 TV, Business Today.